Alright, in this video, I'll be talking about contemporary literary and cultural theory from structuralism to ecocriticism. Alright, to begin with, I would like to set the context. So here, you are going to analyze a literary work, so it means that you have read the literary works and then write the plot for you to find out what is the main issue. Therefore, for you to find the suitable theoretical framework to analyze the text. So this is how you can construct the research methodology. There are three main components. The first one is theory as a tool and approach, and the second is theoretical framework, and the third is method. So these slides hopefully may help you to find out the first two, the theory as a tool and approach, and the second one, theoretical framework. What are the difference? The first one is theory as a tool. So you will see semiotics as a way to understand the meaning of the words or the diction. Then structuralism. Theory as a tool is the way you use this tool to elaborate, to break down the text, in order for you later on to find the conflict, to deliver the conflict in the story. But then you have approach. Approach is a door for you, the way you choose, for example here, psychoanalysis or post-colonial, to elaborate the conflict itself. So it's not the tool to elaborate or break down the text, but the conflict itself. Those are the difference. And the second one is a theoretical framework. So let's say you choose a theory as a tool here, semiotics or structuralism, then that will be only as the tool, but you need to find the concept in it. Or the approach, psychoanalysis. You cannot say psychoanalysis in particular literary work, but you need to find a concept that is discussed in psychoanalysis, because that's only an approach. For example, you have post-traumatic syndrome disorder. So see, you have the approach, psychoanalysis, then you need to find a concept, and here technical term, to elaborate the issue in the story. Psychoanalysis as the approach, then you need to decide the post-traumatic syndrome disorder as the keyword. Or let's say you have it post-colonial, then you have diaspora as the keyword. What's the conflict in diaspora? Or you have social class discrimination. See, so you have first need to decide the approach or the tool that you want to analyze in the story, and after that you need to find the concept in depth, a technical term. See, approach, psychoanalysis, and then keywords PTSD. You have post-colonial, and then you have diaspora. For example, you have feminism as the approach, then you will have the keyword, for example, like gender inequality. See? And that will be for the first two. For the third one method, that will be qualitative method. Okay, let's take a look at the contents. Here there are 10. The first one is structuralism. The second one is post-structuralism and deconstruction. The third is psychoanalytic criticism. The fourth is feminism. The fifth is Marxism. The sixth is post-colonial theory. The seventh is queer theory. The eighth is new historicism and cultural materialism. And the ninth is critical race studies. And the 10th is ecocriticism. Of course, it's not easy to master all of this theory or approach, but then again, that's why you need to read the literary work first, and then you'll have your own hypothesis. Then you will see this, and you'll go back to the literary work, you read it again, and then again work hand in hand to integrate with concept and keywords that you can use to elaborate the issue. See, again, read the literary work, write your own hypothesis, and then try to look at this and try to find particular concept in it and decide the keyword. Let's take a look at this one by one, and you'll have some examples. The first one, structuralism. There are again here some concepts like structuralist narratology, Roland Barthes and his quotes, direct tenet, narrative discourse, and paratext. Then let's say you take one of these, direct tenet. Then in direct internet, he uses the first person, the second person, the third person, narrator, and character. Then you can use that to elaborate the text. But again, this will be as the tool. The question is, what's the conflict in the story? You use the tool in order for you to elaborate the conflict in depth. See, this is only as the tool. Next, post-structuralism and deconstruction. There are some big names like Michel Foucault, Barthes and Derrida. Post-structuralism, subject and subjectivity in post-structuralism, Kristeva and the Cora, postmodernism and narrative. So, you may have the hypothesis, this might be about the deconstruction, this might be about the subject and subjectivity. So you need to read in depth about subject and subjectivity and find the keywords to represent the conflict in literary work that you read. And then the third one, psychoanalytic criticism. Here you have some big names as well: Sigmund Freud, Oedipus complex, Freud and women. You have Jung here, talks about the archetypes, feminist psychoanalysis, Lacan, language and unconscious, and so on and so forth. So again, this is only as the approach. Let's say you want to analyze about the human psyche by Sigmund Freud. So it's not enough to mention the human psyche in this particular literary work, but you need to find a concept in human psyche. What is the concept? What's the conflict? So Freud emphasized that language concealed, revealed, or modified hidden desires, anxieties, and fears. His point was that desire does not express itself easily because culture doesn't allow or facilitate it. And we need to pay attention to language and other forms of symbolic expressions, such as gestures, sounds, facial expression, writing, to discover it. So let's say you read one particular literary work and then you want to analyze about the human psyche. You want to use psychoanalysis as the approach. See, psychoanalysis as the approach, and then you elaborate the structure of the human psyche, the ego, superego, and the ID. For you to find out that, for example, the main character experienced the post-traumatic syndrome disorder. See the steps? You have the psychoanalysis as the approach, and then you go deeper. That will be the structure of human psyche in order for you to analyze the post-traumatic syndrome disorder experienced by the main character. See, you have the approach, and then you have the theory, you have more specific the concept to elaborate the conflict. Okay, and then next you have feminism. So here there are some big names as well: Mary Wollstonecraft, Right of Women, and then Women's Education, Sex and Gender, Simone de Beauvoir, and then it's about the existential feminism, women as the second sex. And here you have as well gender and performativity, subject and subjectivity, race and ethnicity, black feminism. So it's not allowed for you to write feminism in Pride and Prejudice. No, that's only as the approach, but it doesn't represent the conflict. But then if you want to say it's about the subject and subjectivity, it's more specific. Then find a concept in subject and subjectivity, what is the conflict, to represent the main issue in the literary work. Let's take a look at this as the example. The third wave feminism of the 1990s argues that men and women are social categories. So Butler here, you can refer to Butler. You have the gender first as the approach, then you refer Butler to be more specific about her concept, about gender performativity. What it means that clothing, mannerism, speech, and language are all signs that bodies are used to declare their gender to the world. So it means that the way you use your clothes, the way you speak, that all is the performance that is identified as gender. Gender is constructed by society. So see, you have gender as the approach, and then you have the gender performativity, and then perhaps that will be gender discrimination, and so on. These are two examples. These two movies, the first one is Utopia, is the heroine, female heroine, and then the second one, Mulan, is also the female heroine. both of them here perform feminine gender attributes, but then they are the heroines, so you can elaborate that issue by using the feminism and gender perspective or approach, and later on gender performativity as the concept. Next, Marxism. Big names: Marx and Engels, Pierre Bourdieu, cultural production, Stuart Hall, and so on. Let's take a look at the example. Class is simple term, refers to a division within a particular society, like you have the bourgeoisie, then high class, working class. Even in a movie like The Devil Wears Prada, you can analyze their attire, their clothes, as their intrinsic socially related to their social class. So let's say their attire is intrinsically associated with their class. The one who wears the high heels attributed or identified as high class people. The one who wears boots identified as working class people, for example, like that. See, not only by mentioning the social class Marxism in the way The Devil Wears Prada, but you can say here their attire as the issue to elaborate the social class. And next, post-colonial theory. Here some big names: Edward Said, gender sexuality, globalization, diaspora, post-national, and so on. Example, instead of talking about the elephant, but here you can talk about the imperialism, how the concept of East and West, superior and subordinate one in the story. Okay, and then queer theory, some big names: Michel Foucault, discourse and sexuality, race and sexuality, queer diaspora, and so on. New historicism and cultural materialism. Here, cultural materialism, the politic of interpretation, history and textuality, material practices, and so on. Critical race studies by Larry Neal, Race and Difference, Jacques Derrida, Hospitality and Cosmopolitanism. And the last one, ecocriticism. It's not enough to mention ecocriticism, that's only an approach. Then you need to find ecofeminism, gender and nature, literary ecology. This is the example. Instead of just mentioning ecocriticism perspective in selected picture books, you can mention sustaining life with trees. That is the concept as the Mother Earth. So see, you have ecocriticism as the approach, the perspective, and then you have the concept sustaining life with trees. To be more specific, then you elaborate in depth about sustaining life trees by using ecocriticism concept approach. That's it. Hopefully this presentation may give you some insightful feedback, and good luck for your writing. Thank you.